Hey guys, welcome back to the Philco Seventeener restoration project. When we last left off, I had finished the recap, reinstalled the rebuilt boards, powered it up. We got a bright raster, but no indication of reception, no sound, no video. Now it's time to troubleshoot. I removed the picture tube so I could get in here. Also realized I didn't show you where I fitted in the electrolytics. Now part of that was it's not done. Some of these are just sort of tacked in place. Also, when I went to reinstall the picture tube, I realized that this isn't going to quite work. This cap in particular, it's bumping into the CRT and try to push it in all the way. You really need to tuck them either back down where the originals were exactly, down in this crease, or it turns out that a lot of the power supply wires, or where the caps need to go, are on an existing terminal strip. So I don't have to do any wiring changes whatsoever. I just put 4 of the caps right here, which left 3 others, which I sort of fit in down here. Now, I thought, hey, terminal strips, that's the answer, right? Yes and no. If you try to use a conventional terminal strip and install it where the clamps were that held the old electrolytics in, your terminal strip's going to end up being in a position that'll bump into the CRT. So I tried to contort this one and bend it down. That didn't quite cut it. Not if I'm going to mount the caps like this. If I took this cap and, well, basically you need to mount them like I did this one, where I took the leads and bent them up 90 degrees and managed to kind of get it onto this terminal strip, but I'm really not happy with the way that is situated. So these last few, I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking the easiest way to do this, especially if you want to just put them all down in here where the originals were, is just take them and say for that 4-section cap, take all 4 electrolytics, maybe wrap some electrical tape around them, and get a cable clamp and wrap it around them and mount it on this old. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. In order for this to work, you either need some really skinny electrolytics or a large cable clamp, or both. Let's say, for sake of argument, I want to mount these 2 electrolytics, and I want to use that existing mounting hole where the old capacitor clamp was. Got to find a clamp that my caps will fit inside of, and then we would simply run a sheet metal screw through that, and mount them. And then I would attach the wires directly to the caps, and maybe slide some heat shrink tubing over the joint. So not as good as having a terminal strip, especially if you have multiple components that would need to attach to these. Not so good, but at least it's a way to do it. But first, let's focus on getting this set working. I also appreciate all your comments about how I could suspend this yoke. Having to take the picture tube in and out while working on this is a real pain, regardless of how the yoke is supported. Just having to slide it off and unplug the CRT, and every time you move a CRT around, there's always a chance of it breaking or getting a shock or both. So hopefully we won't have to do this too much. But with it out of the way, I can get it all my wiring and double check everything. So that's how I'm going to start, is to go through this. I don't have a resistance chart. I wish I did. In which case I could check the resistance between each tube pin and ground. But I'll do what I can. I do have voltage test points, but boy, it's hard to get in here and test voltages while the set is running when it's assembled. You just can't get it stuff. So that's why I'm hoping that I can just visually and with an ohm meter check for continuity and just make sure everything's right, rather than actually having to probe for voltages, because how do you get down in there? Ugh. One thing that is helpful that I did while working on these boards is to put the set face down. A little difficult to do with the picture tube installed. You put a towel down under it, I suppose. But with it face down, you can get a much better look down in this area. So, we have a signal going into the tuner, coming out of the tuner into the IF board, out of the IF board into the video soundboard to the CRT. The problem lies somewhere. Somewhere between this and this wire going to the cathode of the CRT and the wires going around this way to the speaker or volume control. So since we don't have both, we don't have either sound or video, I'm thinking the problem is probably not on that board, it's going to be here back. Could be as simple as the wire from this board to this board is in the wrong place. I really hope it's not a problem with the tuner, because I do not want to have to pop that open and go digging around. That's where signal injection comes in. Be very, very helpful. So with the set running, I can inject a video signal or audio signal directly into this board, or go a step back and I can inject a modulated IF signal directly into this board to simulate the output of the tuner. Alright, no more messing around. I'm going to proceed with some signal injection. Have the video out of my Suncor VG91 going to the input on the video sound board. That is this guy. So we are bypassing the tuner, we are bypassing the IF, and I am injecting it to L11 right there, which goes right into the 8AW8 video amp. So we just want video at this point, no modulation. This puts out 1 volt peak to peak. It's a crapshoot as to whether or not the polarity's right and the amplitude's right, but I'm hoping we get something. If we do, we know everything from this point downstream is good, and the problem lies in the IF board or the tuner. Alright, let's give it a try. Now, if I did need a larger amplitude video signal, or wanted to invert it, or get some other waveforms, there is the companion TVA92, which I'll pull out if we need. But hey, haha. Excellent. I don't remember what any of these controls do, but let's see. That's the one that gets stuck. That's brightness. Where's that brightness? One of these has to be vertical hold. Come on. Boy, that's weird. None of these controls are doing anything except this one. Alright, let's see. Huh. Oh, the control that's funky is vertical hold, of course. Okay, it does kind of work. That's the control that I'm very concerned about. And down the center of it, I believe is height or linearity. Height, I think. Which, of course, throws off the sync, as often the case. And, alright, well, I'm going to keep struggling with these controls. But this is very promising looking. Success. Finally sussed out the controls properly. This is brightness, which works fine. This is horizontal hold. This thing's rock steady from one extreme to the other. I never lose hold. Of course, I'm injecting a strong signal directly into the set too, so that's not quite fair. The outer of this is vertical hold, and it's really messed up, and the interior control of this is height. Alright, so with all those adjusted, not too bad. Now the yoke is loose on the neck, it's not straight, it's probably not pushed on all the way, so don't worry about the geometry too much, but even as it is, that's really nice. Okay, now what? Well, this can also do IF. And this is, but it can do the newer 44 megahertz IF, but that's what this uses. So we can now go back a bit and try injecting a signal into this guy somewhere. Well, I tried injecting a signal into the IF board at all the way where the tuner comes in, and at several stages, including all the way to the grid on the detector tube, and I got absolutely nothing out. Now, I didn't pull this board. I checked the resistors. They all seemed to be within spec, and visually it looked okay. But it could be a cracked trace, cold solder joint. Who knows? But before we do that, let's try the simplest possible thing, which is to replace the detector tube. The one that was in there, I checked. But, you know, the old adage, there's no test like trying it in an actual device versus a tester. So, let's see. Now, I'm not injecting anything right now. We should get snow, whereas before we were just getting a blank screen. We have snow. Could it be that simple? Just an overlooked tube. I'll definitely want to check that again, because I want to know. Well, when I did my initial screening, did that not show up as a bad tube? And now the tuner is doing its thing. And I suspect... I wonder what it's picking up there. I suspect if I inject a signal, which I will do now, I might actually get a picture. Alrighty, I also now have a speaker hooked up for the first time. Turn off my space heater. See, that's fine. Let's see. Vertical hold control, that's that busted one. It's fighting with me. There we go. Boy, that looks terrible. Now, I have the shield off the IF board, and I have alligator clips all over the place, so that's not too concerning. That's about interference is from my overhead light. No! Okay. My overhead shop light puts out a ton of noise on the AM band, but not TV in this case. Who knows? But I'm sure putting the shield on the IF board will make a difference. Well, noise aside, that's working really, really well. That's a really good picture. And nice and bright, too. Okay then, I guess I won't be taking the IF board out. Now, I got a lot of little tasks to attend to. Alright, one not so minor task to address are the electrolytics. That's why I don't have the CRT frame fully screwed down. They cannot stay where I put them. I can't fully reassemble the set, so I have to pull the picture tube back off and do more work down there. I probably have to drill some holes and mount terminal strips in a different place. Two, gotta address this wonky pot. I'll try removing it and seeing what I can do with it. Of course, I need to reinstall this tube shield, clean up, shoot off. This is the VHF input. I might just transfer the connectors from the that's odd. The UHF. They're not this. Huh. I think that inner part on the top there, I think that's the center pin of the, I think that's the male one that broke off and is stuck inside the female one. But I may just cut these off and transfer them over to this, since we aren't going to be using UHF. So once I get this reattached and stable, I'll clean the controls and see about adjusting the picture. And just so happens the owner of this set bought a second one, a twin, with a matching stand. So if he decides he wants to get it restored at some point, I'll be more familiar, and I just might have a little surprise for you guys in a couple days. But this is good news. This is good news. I just saved myself a whole lot of trouble. Oh yeah, let's check that tube, see what the heck is going on. So we'll compare this tube with the one that's in there, which is just a used pole I took out of my pile, 6AM8. It's used in the, in fact, not using the predictors, in fact, this came out of a predictor. So, good, not so good. Well, I may have messed up, I may not have. Maybe the tube died while I was working on the set, I don't know, but I can tell you this. The 6AM8 has 2 sections in it. The first section tests good. The second section is dead. So I may have only tested the first section and moved on, or I don't know. But yeah, it's completely dead, which explains why absolutely no signal was getting through. Alright, awesome. Yeah, slightly better with the shielding in place. I'm going to break off the video here, and hopefully the next installment will be the final installment. I'll wrap up all those items I'd spoken about. I was quite surprised, but pleasantly surprised, that the problem was so trivial.